So this is a warping board, and everyone needs it to wind out the warp that we're going to bring to your loom for your project. And so instead of like trying to walk 4 yards back and forth, we can consolidate that in this movement. So we have pegs 1 yard apart here. So I'm going to map out with this pink string, which isn't one of the warp threads. I'm just going to create like sort of a guide path with this pink string of 4 yards. And you'll see there's way more than 4 pegs on each. But I just have to find a path and then be consistent with it this whole time. So I'm gonna go, this is my first yard, 1, over to this, 2, over to this, 3, and then I'm gonna go over these 2 top ones and under, and then back around. So I'm gonna have Heather come over here to get this cross really close up, and I'm gonna show it again, and I'm gonna wind this back down. So now I've taken, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 yards, but most importantly, ignore this knot because the knot shouldn't be there. There's this moment where there's a cross, and this is capturing the sequence of all of the warp threads. So this is my first thread, and this is my second thread. So I went over these 2 pegs at the top, under this place where the first thread is becoming the second thread, and then under here. So basically, I have 2 lengths of warp now, each 4 yards long. So by going up and then down, I've accomplished 2 ends of my final warp. We call them, when we measured it out on the ruler, Heather measured 25 ends per inch on the ruler, and then we divided that in half to get a balanced weave. So an end per inch, we think about warps as ends for some reason, because at some point, we're going to actually cut this warp, and this is where the first thread is becoming the second thread. So you have to imagine here is going to be cut, and that end of the warp is going to be on your face, and so it counts for 2 threads, right? Because this is, you can see there are clearly 2 threads here. So I have my map drawn for where I'm going to now wind my warp. So Heather has made this drawing for how she wants the colors to be in this 14 inches. So I'm going to start by winding 2 inches of the sort of brown, and then 3 inches of the blue. So I remember that it was 12 ends per inch. So let's look at how that's going to look as I wind it. So again, this is just a map. It doesn't count for anything. I'm going to now tie a knot. Any kind of knot will do. I'm doing sort of a overhand knot with a loop, something that doesn't come undone. And I'm going to put it right at that same guide mark. And now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm following that first map guideline. I went over the second peg, under the last peg, back under, and over. And now I'm going back. So this is my second official end of my warp. And now I just get to keep going. So now I'm going back up. Here we go. And now I'm doing that same path. It gets very, I think, kind of meditative once you get going on this. You don't have to worry about this being in the exact right place here, because it's going to all work out back on the loom. So now I'm going up the 3rd time, over, under, and down. So you can come up with your own sort of mantra to keep this moving. Over and back. And I'm going to tell you that I'm really close to having my first inch done. And I'll show you how we're going to count that. I'm going to have Heather come over to this other side to look at me. But I'm going to finish, go all the way down to the end. And Heather, if you don't mind coming over here now, let's count. Let's see what we have. So I'm going to count these by 2s, because as I'm going to say 30 million times, and it's not going to make sense yet, probably, this is representing 2 threads. It comes from my way up. It's the first warp end becoming the second warp end, because I did 4 yards going up and 4 yards going back. So I'm going to count here at the, not where I started, but where I ended, and turn back by 2s. So I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I have 1 more to do until I'm at my first inch. Over, under. So that now is my first inch. Yay, hooray. So I'm gonna pause a minute. I'm just wrapping this around a few times so it doesn't come undone. And I'm gonna get just a piece of some other color of thread, 2 of them. And I'm just gonna mark that, because I just counted it. You guys counted it with me. I don't need to count it every time I need to know. So that marks my first inch. So now I'm gonna go ahead and finish my second inch, and then I'm gonna transfer to doing the blue thread. So I'm unwinding that, and I'm gonna keep going. So maybe we can stop the video and then I'll start with the new color.